I think we could kick off is for the benefit of our audience. You operate in the data space. Obviously, that's a very important space in the age of AI. Let's start off with a quick kind of overview of Tamer.
Sure. So Tamer's in the master data management space, and you're right about your point about AI. What's interesting from my perspective around Tamer and master data management is that, as someone so eloquently put it to me recently, MDM is having a moment. And
Hmm.
I think that's a function of organizations increasingly deploying these AI workloads, whether they're AI agents or AI models. And then they're realizing that their data is a mess, right? It's
Hmm.
unorganized, it's in silos, it's messy, it's incomplete, it's incorrect. And then when you turn that over to an AI agent, bad things can happen. Bad things can happen at scale, and that's scary. And so companies are saying, well, geez, we gotta get a handle on this. We gotta organize this data, collect it together, and we want to do that across systems. We want to be thinking across business units, across geographies, across product lines, as we need to organize the data in a different way. MDM can help with that, and then Tamer can be a part of that solution. Uh, this also speaks to an important idea, which is Tamer uses AI to solve the MDM problem. So we're both being driven by this drive to AI inside the organization and a beneficiary of it.
Hmm. And there's others in the MDM space. You have a unique history, and then I believe you grew out of MIT, and you have a notable founder. Maybe give us a little bit of that history.
Sure. So Tamer came out of academic research at MIT in the computer science department under the tutelage of Mike Stonebreaker. And Stonebreaker is obviously Turing Award winner, a very famous guy. And he had a team of folks in his lab, and they were working on in a way, what sounds like a very simple problem, which is, can we train a model? Can we train a machine to do basic data management tasks? Imagine you have data in lots of places. We want to link it together. We might consider doing that manually, or we might consider that with doing that with rules through a rules engine. What if we could train a model to do the same thing? And it started really with just that um, computer science problem that generated an academic paper, and then from that academic paper, the original idea behind the tool was data tamer, Tamer, and then of course somebody realized there was like a copyright violation, so it became Tamer, Tamr. But and again, the core idea that came out of that academic research is still very relevant today. What if we could have a machine do the work we would traditionally rely on humans to do around organizing, cleaning, updating, keeping up to date enterprise data? That's really the core idea.
Hmm. And fast forward to today, what types of companies use your solution? Are these larger companies that, have a lot of data that they need organized?
Sure. But before we talk about the customer, you said fast forward to today, and that's actually a really important idea,
Okay. Yeah.
which is when the original academic work was done, this idea that we could rely on machines to do work that we would traditionally rely on humans to do was kind of fanciful, if we're being honest. And I call it the chat GPT moment. But like as soon as AI hit the mainstream, as soon as my mother-in-law started using it, um, you know, all of a sudden this idea that we could rely on a machine to do this task or these tasks, uh, all of a sudden became like, yeah, this is actually possible. And I think that's a lot of what drove the interest and adoption of Tamer's approach. So again, using the machine to organize the data and not rules or people. But to your question, yes, generally we see the larger the company, like more data, more problems. Like the bigger the company,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely they are to have grown through acquisition, to operate in geographic divisions or product lines, to be have many different underlying systems, to be organized with different data warehousing technologies, and then struggle with this challenge of knitting that data together.
Hmm. Well, what I've found, and this is somewhat anecdotal though, is that there's still a little bit of error in, if I use ChatGPT, I have a degree of confidence that what it's reporting back to me is accurate, right? Um, but when you're applying AI at such a large scale and
And
across
for such an
complicated,
important thing, which is your enterprise data, for sure.
how do you kind of manage that kind of confidence level? Like, and do most companies who use Tamer say like, yeah, this is 99.9% accurate?
So the first thing to remember is that uh, let's assume for the moment that just manually going through the data is your alternative approach, right? That also has an error rate, right? People are fallible. Or if you imagine trying to write rules to do the same, again, rules aren't perfect either. And there's a reason people uh, turn away from a rules based approach. They're hard to manage. Rules can be conflicting. They can result in outcomes you didn't expect because two rules become in conflict with each other. So there is no perfection. That being said, one of the powerful ideas behind a model is that models, by their nature, are probabilistic. And so it's much easier for a system like Tamer that's built with models at the core to surface the cases in which the model is least confident.
Mm.
So, with a rule, there's no sense of confidence. It's like it fired or it didn't, right? With Tamer, we can say these are cases where the model's having the most trouble. And these are likely to be places where you, as the human, want to make a tough call and make a decision. We have this concept we call the curator hub. And it's really, you can think of it almost like as a queue of places where the human can be most helpful.
Hmm.
And this also speaks to the manual approach. If I asked you to go through 10 million records manually, you would probably quit. You'd be like, I'm not doing that. Life's too short. But if I said, look, here's 10 records that I'm having the most trouble with that would have the biggest impact on improving your business, you'd be like, yeah, I'll do that. 10 records, got it, no problem. And that's the distinction. We can apply human energy in the place where it's most valuable.
Hmm. Let's talk about the application of the solutions. And believe healthcare is one of the big
Sure.
sectors. So maybe, yeah, a great kind of case where
Sure.
Tamer was put to use.
Yeah, so I think about an organization like CHG, which is in the healthcare staffing space. And if you think about it, this is a kind of a perfect problem. If you're trying to match clinicians to open roles, you often have many different systems that are contributing information to that match.
Mm.
You might have healthcare or hospital systems with healthcare data. You also have physician systems. You may have background, you may have government data like NPI numbers, not to mention the fact that you have an open role with a specific set of requirements. That's in a whole different system. You might have other operational systems that are managing bits and pieces of the enrollment. And so, and more importantly, matching the physician to the open role is really important. It's important to the physician, obviously, and it's important to the place they're going to go be working and be helpful. You want to make sure that they have admitting privileges, that they're the right skill set, et cetera. And that's exactly the challenge that we're helping CHD Healthcare solve. It's also not a small problem, right? There are millions of physicians running through their data sets and their network, literally, over 7 million. And there are many different systems involved. And so you could end up with lots of duplicate data, but putting Tamer in place, CHG now has like this 360 view of the provider in this case, and thinking about what's the perfect place, perfect role for that provider at this moment.
Hmm.
Now, help?
Um, and maybe switching gears a little bit, back to Tamer as a company. What stage are you at in terms of the life cycle? We talked about the origins, and then we fast forwarded all the way to today. But can you give us a sense of like the scale of the business and
Sure.
where you view it's at?
Yeah. So I think we're in a way, early in our journey. Um, the original academic work was very much just that, academic work. There's a big difference between a set of algorithms, an academic paper, and then building a company. Now, fast forward, the good news is we're 60 people, almost all of whom are here in Harvard Square, Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have a team in London as well, and a few folks out in Asia Pacific. But the bulk of people are here. And really, the focus of the energy of the business is around making the algorithms and ideas and really the technology super easy to use. And again, I think to borrow from ChatGPT for a second, I think this is the magic of ChatGPT and similar technologies, which is it took something that was available for many years prior to that point and just made it really easy to access.
Hmm.
And in that same way, we want to make the powerful AI that we've built for doing common data management tasks like so easy. Anyone can just, sort of sign up, provision, and run some data through the system, have it available in real time, have it available in their common analytical systems, make it like real easy.
Hmm. Um, and you brought in capital along the way. You have some investors. Are you, in terms of capital, are you um, in the burning phase? Are you looking for additional growth capital at a certain point in time?
Sure. So NEA and Google Ventures are the primary backers of
Hmm.
the business. We're at a place today where I think we control our destiny from a growth perspective.
Hmm.
We don't need additional capital. Of course, I do think AI applications are, if MDM is having a moment, AI applications are probably also having a moment.
Hmm.
And I do think we're at an interesting inflection point in the business where, we've reached this point where people trust the technology. They believe and understand that models can be helpful to them. And the central challenge, this thing we've been working on really for a long time around organizing enterprise data into these 360 pages that everyone can access, like that's kind of the moment. So look, we're always looking for ways to accelerate growth.
Hmm. I want to touch on your background. You have an interesting background in that you've served in different roles with different companies previously, and then when you entered Tamr, it was as a chief product officer, I believe. So, would love to hear a little bit about your background. I believe it begins at A.T. Kearney.
That's true. I began in management consulting, for which I apologize, and quickly realized that I was a computer geek at heart and really wanted to work in the tech industry. I worked with Tom Siebel, Pat House, Dave Schmeier, the team at Siebel Systems when they were building that business. And I think it's fair to say that I learned an enormous amount from working at Siebel about what it means to be working at a professional company, developing mission critical, really important software for customers. Um, loved that, learned a lot from it. And then I joined a small, unknown Swedish software company called Qlik. Literally, I was one of the first US employees. We helped build that business globally. We took it public. I started by running marketing and then ended up running product and actually took over engineering for a little while. And this is a common theme that I've had is this oscillation between the marketing and positioning side of the business and the product and engineering side of the business. And
Hmm.
my general experience has been that it's really important to have both views. Like, what does the market care about? What are customers talking about? How do they think about and use technology? And then what are we actually building? Like, what is the core essence of differentiation that we can bring to the market? Um, and I joined Celonis again, went back to the marketing side, running marketing there. I'd say a common theme between Celonis and Qlik was helping people visualize and consume data in new ways, whether it's Celonis with a process visualization or Qlik with a dashboard. But the common experience across both was that customers would complain not about the visualization, but about the data itself. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, I love this, but the data is junk. Like, how do I fix that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd known Tamr since it was founded, but I sort of bumped into it. And I thought, you know what? The next 10 years in the data space are not going to be about helping people see and use data differently. It's going to be about actually improving the data.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've solved that the visualization problem. Let's work on the data problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I joined here. I joined as chief product officer because there was some product work we wanted to do, and then I've taken over and just running the business. So that's been fun too.
This is an aside, but a lot of the younger generation now, computer engineers, are having a tough time getting positions because they're being displaced by AI. So the question is, what fields should they go into? And data seems like it's a good field. Do you agree with that?
I think that's right. And to say it a different way, the basic mechanics of writing code are becoming, increasingly easy to turn over to machines. But the question and challenge associated with what do we want that code to do? What problem are we trying to solve? Is not one that I expect machines are going to be that helpful. That's the kind of experience it requires talking to a person, understanding their needs and requirements. It is also true that I think that hits first in the data space. So to say it a different way, writing a Python pipeline to do a bunch of data transformation, like Claude Code can do that almost perfectly. Understanding why you're transferring that data and what manipulation you're trying to do to it is a very different question, and one
Mm-hmm.
where Claude, might have many suggestions, but wouldn't really be able to answer the question. Thinking about how you would express the results of that code you wrote, that's a very different problem.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, I think it's the kind of place, or I my advice to someone starting their career would be to sort of put yourself in the position of uh, understanding a business problem, understanding a business person's challenges, and then translate that into code, as opposed to starting with code and then trying to find an application for it.